And I see people. That's a good thing. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Thursday evening where we get to hang out and hopefully have some fun talking about fish. Do you know what our topic is tonight?
I do. It was on the thumbnail. And I asked you what it was earlier, and you told me. And put all that together, and I know what the topic is.
How about that? And so, yeah, the topic tonight is going to be all about fish rooms. Fish rooms because I know for some of you, you've either got one, or you want one, or you want reasons for someone to talk you out of one or talk you into one. And so all of those things are good reasons to be here because, and maybe some of you had one and you're like, yeah, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore, man. But yeah, we've got some things to talk about when it comes to fish rooms because we've had up to 80 tanks in here in the past, and now we've got about 40. And yeah, so that's what we're going to be talking about. Before we get into our subject, just want to say hello to everybody. Hello to our moderators. I see second floors in the house.
In the house. Hey,
what's going on?
How are you guys doing in Texas? I know you're not exactly in that flooding area, but I don't know what y'all are getting there.
Well,
hopefully, not good.
Yeah, it has been a real mess for sure.
Not good.
So, yeah, we videos that are going to be or that have happened this week. So Sunday on Primetime Aquatics, right here, I finally was able to release the part 1 of the Fritz interview. Did you get a chance to see that one?
Me? No, not yet.
Oh,
but I'm
my
looking forward
gosh.
to it.
Yeah, that
it's on
one,
my list.
That was a really fun interview. And in fact, for this coming Sunday, there is a part 2 to that because we did not even come close to finishing our conversation. And we're going to turn our attention more towards what is actually going on with the microbes in the aquarium. And so that's going to be the part 2, not as long, but it's about 15 minutes that's coming out this Sunday. And I hope you enjoy that one too, because it should be pretty cool. Before I forget, and I'll try to mention this again later in the stream, we will not be here next Thursday evening. So there will not be a live stream next Thursday. There will be one in 2 weeks, but just not next Thursday. So we will be away.
What a bummer.
Wait, what is that from? Oh, airplane. What a bummer. I have a drinking problem. Yep.
Don't remember that part.
It's true. So that was Sunday. Monday on the Tank Talk podcast, we talked about, we tried to focus on things you need for your aquarium that aren't super obvious, right? So we're not talking about heaters and, oh, you need a light and all that kind of stuff, but things that sometimes people forget. They get all this stuff for their aquarium and then they realize, hey, you know what? I don't have these other things that are really important. And often when you need these other things, it's too late to get them and it can wind up being an emergency. So that was the Tank Talk podcast this past Monday. Yesterday, what did you talk about on the small scape?
I had some ideas on how you could spruce up a tank very quickly. I thought this would be really fun. Like 5-minute ideas. It only takes you 5 minutes to spruce up your tank. Some fun ideas. And it was a 5-minute video. I thought, who doesn't have time to watch a 5-minute video?
So it's kind of like 5 tips in 5 minutes.
It's like Chuck Woolery instead of 2 and 2, 5 and 5. There you go.
What is 2 and 2?
Okay, come on. All right, who knows it?
Well, I know who Chuck Woolery is. My students don't anymore.
2 and 2. We'll be back. Chuck Woolery would say it before the commercial. We'll be back in 2 and 2.
Okay.
Whatever that meant. Like in 2 minutes.
I have no idea. I used to tell my students that sigma factor, a type of transcription factor, is like the Chuck Woolery of transcription factors. And now I can't say that anymore because not a single person knows what that is. So I had to change my analogy to Match.com or eHarmony, and that seemed to work better. So anyway, that was Wednesday. Prime timers, I will probably get the video out tomorrow. I didn't get a chance today because, as many of you know who are subscribed to my science channel, STEM Nerds, there is a video releasing every day, and it's not because I necessarily want to break the algorithm, because that is not happening. I need to get these videos out in time for my students who are really right behind me in terms of the content that they're learning. So thus the reason, if you're subscribed to the STEM Nerds channel, the science channel, like, wow, video every single day. How come he doesn't do this in Primetime Aquatics? Because that pace is going to drastically and dramatically slow down once I can get all the rest of the videos out. I'm really close to doing that so they can finish the rest of the semester, and then I can take a step back, take a breath, and then do the first 2 units, which have already passed. I just need to get those first 2 units out before the semester starts. But if you're into science and like true science nerdery, STEM Nerds, that is my science channel. There's been videos out, like I said, every single day. Iron Mission, there was a video out in the motorcycle channel. Sunday, like I said, we will have the part 2 to the Fritz video, so that should be pretty cool. And I see other people rolling on in here. Oh, the small scape is here. How about that? I see that.
Really?
I see
You
that
are
name. It's
so
been a while.
lucky.
Noelle's in the house.
Hi,
Yeah.
Noelle.
So, Second Floor Aquatics, the dating game. Yeah. Was that what it was called though? No, Chuck
no,
Woolery was,
it was
Love Connection.
Yeah. Oh, I was
Yeah.
just typing that for L. L. It was the Love Connection
Love Connection.
game show.
That's-
It's like a game show.
I remember.
You seem like a nice guy. I don't
Do
know.
you remember? Maybe somebody does. It was so strange. I think I caught like 1 or 2 episodes of this show. In the mid 90s, there was a dating show, and I just vaguely remember them saying cool or not cool. And they would hold up a piece of paper. It's like cool, and everybody else would go cool, not cool. But I have no idea what that show was called. It was kind of like a knockoff of Love Connection. It was kind of
Apparently
silly.
it was.
I think it was probably on 4.
Apparently it was not cool. Get
That's
it?
real funny.
Because you were the only one watching it.
I pretty much was. I'm sure there was like 3 episodes and there was like 2 viewers, and I was one of them. And for 1 episode, I'm like, this is stupid. So anyway, yeah, there you have it. For those of you again who've walked in late, shame on you. We are.
Go to sit in the corner.
Yeah, you're in the corner now.
I sit in the corner with me because I was pretty much almost late.
That's true. That is very true. So, what?
KG Tropicals viewers are here. What?
Yeah, I
Are
just
they,
saw
like,
that. But
Walking in?
what I don't understand is, I've been so busy. I've been stuck down here literally all day. I thought he said he wasn't streaming tonight. So someone's going to have to tell me, was there a KG Tropical stream from this evening? Because I know he did
I was
one.
at my dad's. I don't know.
I saw one pop up. I think it was yesterday. Because he was going over the new Seche hang-on-back filter, but I didn't realize there was
know.
going to be one today.
Oh, it's
So
because we were from KG Tropicals. Well, somebody just said they were just from.
okay, awesome. Well, glad you're here, everybody. Before I forget, I mentioned this already at the beginning. However, I will mention it again, and that is we are not going to be here next week. So we'll have the week off from streaming, but we'll be back in 2 weeks. And tonight's topic, there is a topic. It's all about...
Nanofish.
No. No. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But we're going to be talking about the old fish room. And if you're thinking about it, there you have it. Oh, Jose says KG Tropicals went live to stream about the new fluval plant lights, the 4.0.
Oh.
Cool. There's a lot of new stuff coming out these days. Yeah. Michelle, I didn't send a message that we were on because I thought when we talked last time he was thinking that he wasn't going to be live tonight. Like I said, I've been down here recording STEM Nerds videos literally all day, so my voice is already kind of going. But I'm glad he was able to stream. Glad you were there, and I'm glad you're here now. So, okay, can we talk about a fish room? You want to do it? Well, I hope
Go
you
for
have
it.
things to say.
Oh, Zenny's here. Hey, Zenny.
So.
Hey, y'all.
Kind of taking us through what we did / I did when the decision was made to make an actual fish room as opposed to just having some tanks kind of thrown about the house.
Would you like to share how long it took you?
Yeah, well, why don't you share that? What
I
exactly
remember it
happened?
like it was yesterday. See, I used to have my craft area in what we call the old side. It's like where the multi-low boy is, that side. And that used to be my Christmas workshop, where I would just do all my crafts. Except I had an issue because sometimes you'd see like a spider, and sometimes I was just afraid there would be spiders. I'm just not a basement type of dweller. There are no windows. And his office was up in the loft, which had a window. Of course, it was considerably smaller, and it was a loft. It didn't even have a door or wall. But I was always like, oh, he's so lucky. Well, I had mentioned we're like walking out of PetSmart, and I had mentioned like, oh, yeah, I'd trade you in a second. And he's like, what? And he got like whiplash, I think. And he's like, you would trade like spaces? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, really? Let me think about that. That's very interesting. Well, he drafted the boys, and probably within like 3 hours, everything was moved out of the basement into the garage. All of my stuff was out. And it began. The madness began.
Before that time, and by the way, if you want to see what that area looked like before it was a fish room, I have a video on this channel. It's still up. I think it was called, there are 2 videos, like the fish room before the fish room, something like that, or the fish room before Primetime Aquatics. It's out there, and it's kind of cool because at the time, I did take a little bit of videos on like a horrible iPad that had probably like 360p resolution. I took some pictures, so you can actually see it. Also want to say thank you to, bump the mic there, to Dragon Dad for becoming a new prime timer. And I also want to say thank you to Second Floor. They made 5 new prime timers.
Oh, you
Thank
guys.
you so much for doing that. That's pretty
so
awesome. And
sweet.
so did Dennis.
Aww.
So thank you very much for that. That is really, really nice of you. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Aw.
And hopefully the people who were the recipients of that appreciate it. So thank you. Yeah, so fish room. She said, switch. And the boys were young at the time, so this would have been around 2015 or 2016. So we're talking about having a 12 and a 9-year-old, and they were running up and down the stairs because they were super excited about it too. So that, I mean, that craft area was, there was a lot of stuff down there, and we got that cleared out in one afternoon. She got back from work and like, what happened? So once we had it established, I had this room. I started really thinking about the fish room. Now, keep in mind, this had nothing to do with YouTube. It had nothing to do with, wanting views or what I was going to do so people could see it. I had no intention of ever being on YouTube whatsoever. Like, there was nothing that ever crossed my mind about that. It was so the first thing that I had to figure out, and the thing that you would have to figure out if you're ever really considering a fish room, is what's its purpose, right? Is the purpose to just enjoy fish, to do breeding? I mean, if it was all your fish room, what would the purpose be?
If I were to create a fish room, what would be the purpose? Besides like nano tanks?
That's your purpose, right?
But it'd be like crazy nano tank goodness. Oh yeah, it'd be like
so nano tanks and scaping, right? So my purpose at the time was,
and glitter.
I thought I just wanted to keep a lot of fish, and then I also wanted to get into fish breeding a little bit more, because at the time we still had a bunch of tanks. We had tanks upstairs. This whole side, I think there was 8 or 10 tanks over here. So we had quite a few already, but I wanted to do a little bit more breeding, and just I wanted to kind of recreate in my head what it was like going to a fish store when I was younger. So that was the purpose. You have to define your purpose, because that is going to really impact the next couple steps. And that is, okay, well, now you have a purpose. How much money do you have to do this? Because there are inexpensive ways to build a fish room. There are more expensive ways to build a fish room. And the more you get into this, the money can add up in a hurry, right? And it's not just about the tanks. It's the tanks, all the equipment, and all the stuff that's got to go in the tanks, depending on what you want to do. So define your budget, because once you have your budget, you need to then figure out, well, what tank sizes, right? There's a reason why our fish room on the other side looks the way it does. When the last fish room tour that we did, you guys could see it. I think I did it last summer. We have 4. The original setup was 4 20-gallon longs, 6 40 breeders.
Mm-hmm.
There was the 50-gallon low boy with 4 standard 20s underneath that, and then 2 75s, and eventually 2 125s. Well, why did I set those up? Because I really like those size tanks. The 4 standard 20s just fit really nicely under the 50-gallon low boy. I think originally what I intended to do was put 2 55s down there, but they were too tall. I should have made that stand higher if that's what I wanted to do, and I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I went with the standard 20s on each side, so 4 total. But those are some of my favorite size tanks. And I wanted variation, right? I wanted to be able to keep small fish in the 20s, then do some breeding or medium-sized fish in the 40s, but I didn't want to limit myself, so I wanted the 275s and the two 125s so I could do bigger things, have more options for stocking, that kind of thing. So again, for you, that's why you have to define your purpose first, because your purpose is going to help you determine what tank sizes you want. Now, if that were your area, it would probably look dramatically different. Like, how would it look different if it were yours?
Well, see, and that's the thing. I mean, if you think about it, I do have an area, and that is the lounge upstairs. It's I can't completely take it over because we are in a small house, and I do kind of have to share it. But I wouldn't do like the traditional stack.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, would take full advantage of the vertical space and just have tank over tank over tank. Although I'm more interested in setting a context to each tank. So that's why my 22 centerpiece tank has artwork above it. It's coordinated with it. So it's a whole kind of like vignette on its own. So that's how, for starters, that's how it would be different. I would have less tanks than most of you crazies.
So would you say...
And they'd probably be smaller than a lot of you.
It would
Not
be
so
more
crazies.
of like a gallery feel like we have behind us,
Yes.
just with smaller aquariums as opposed
And more
to
knickknacks
a
and
more,
bric-a-brac.
more
Yeah.
fish room feel.
Yeah.
Right?
And
so
more
again,
glitter.
Yeah, you're defining your purpose, right? That's the big thing, is what is the purpose of this thing I want to do? And you mentioned something else that's really important. You also have to decide in this process, are you eventually going to go vertical? Are you going to go up? Are you going to start stacking aquariums? Because if you're going to do that, it's actually better to start that way. Which also means if you're going vertical that you're going to have some interesting decisions to make when it comes to stands, right? So on the other side, all the stands that you see there, I built myself because I wanted exactly the heights that I have at the time that I built them for the tanks that I have. So you can buy stands, like industrial stands. I know some people will use the 2x4s and cinder blocks and stuff, but again, that goes back to your purpose. If you want something that is appealing to look at, maybe you want to build your own stands or even buy them. If you don't care about that, then you can get the industrial stands, you can get the cinder blocks and 2x4s, which is perfectly fine. It's all about what you want, but understand that is a significant cost, is what you're doing with your tanks, especially if you're going vertical. But I can't state this strongly enough. If you even think you're going to go vertical at some point, start that way. It is a lot easier to be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to start with 6 aquariums. Rather than put 6 individual tanks all around the room, be like, you know what? Okay, if these 6 aquariums, I could do 3 stacks of 2, I'm going to do that. Or I'm going to do 3 stacks or 2 stacks of 3. Start that way and then build it out. Trust me, it's just going to make your life so much easier. The other thing, and this is big, and this is something that we have been contemplating more and more, and that is time.
Mm-hmm.
Because it might seem cool to put in, because oh yeah, this person on YouTube, that person on YouTube's got 20 tanks and they've got 40, and pretty soon it becomes a pee-pee match. Like, oh, I've got 100 tanks and I've got 500 and they're all over my house, and I spread out and I had to buy a new house, and the next door neighbor's house has now got tanks and I've got 10,000 aquariums. Know your limits. The minute this hobby turns into a job, especially if it's a job you're not making any money at, you're going to wind up hating it. So be really careful about how many aquariums you plan to add. You don't necessarily have to add them all at once, right?
Nope.
Because
I wouldn't.
you can certainly moderate, and again, that's why I say go vertical, but you don't have to fill up all that space at the same time, because you could go from 0 to hero back to 0 again real quick when it comes to aquariums, tank maintenance, and your joy for the hobby. How many times have you heard that when we go to Aquashellas, or when I was at the ACA, or all these different places where it's like, hey, I started with 1 aquarium. It was kind of interesting around 2020. Those Aquashellas, when we all came back, it was always the same thing. Yeah, I started with 1, now I got 15, I got 20 aquariums. Like, wow, that's pretty cool. A year later, there was a lot more, yeah, I had 1, I went to 20, now I'm back down to 8. Mm-hmm. Because people realize wow, you know what? I went a little too crazy. Let me scale this back now because I don't feel like spending 6 hours a week or 10 hours a week or one entire weekend day doing nothing but tank maintenance. That doesn't sound very relaxing.
Unless you really love tank maintenance, which I know there's a few of you out there. I'm not one of them. I am not
No, I can't stand it. I do not like it whatsoever.
I'm not one who finds it relaxing.
No.
I mean, I love when it's done, but I'm not a, let me go relax and clean 20 tanks.
No,
No.
that is absolutely not. And we have been super clear, and we'll still maintain this, that I don't maintain our aquariums. I used to, but I used to help out, but it's the boys. It's always been Eli on that side, Luke on this side. When Luke went to, got busier with college, now Eli does all of it. And that's the way it is. When and if and when Eli is moving on with his life and finds another job besides Primetime Aquatics, then we have to decide, okay, what are we doing? Because do we have the time for that? And we'll plan accordingly. So I think another big one is filtration.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
I
That's a
can-
consideration.
I think you would probably be the first to say my choice of filtration on the other side is probably your least favorite.
Yep.
And what do we have in the fish room?
Lots and lots of sponge filters.
Air driven, because it is by far the most economical. You really,
Yeah, you
really
kinda
need to
have
think
to,
about that.
yeah.
It's absolutely critical that if you are going to be putting a lot of tanks in one area, think about your filtration. Think about your energy consumption, because if you've got hang-on backs on every single tank or small canisters or something, I mean, you could have an electric bill that goes absolutely through the roof. Ours probably doubled after we put the fish room in. When I say double, it's actually not that much. It might have gone up by like $100, $120 a month.
Mm-hmm.
But we were also pretty careful about how we did the fish room. Now, originally, I don't know if you remember this, we had heaters in every single one of those tanks in the fish room side.
Yes.
And the reason for that is at the time, this side was not yet the second fish room. It wasn't a gallery. It wasn't even the fish room at that point. We had a couch down here. We still had the TV. And my point was, I don't want this to be super hot and heat the room, because we still come down here all the time and watch TV. So I had heaters in every single one of those aquariums. And that, at least initially, I had to have an electrician come out. We had to run the electric in the fish room on a second circuit, because I was at a point where when I would plug something in, I'd blow a breaker. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So think about it, especially if you've got an older house, because how you deal with filtration is usually going to be the number one energy consumption product that you're dealing with a fish room. We went with air. There are other ways. I mean, I could have put a sump system on each wall and then had a sump that filtered multiple tanks at the same time. That's certainly a consideration, and there's lots of advantages and disadvantages of doing each type of filtration, but consider that. Again, the temperatures, especially if you have a fish room, think about it. Think about what it is you want to do, because now we do heat the room. It just became much more economical to do so. These tanks over here have backup heaters in them, but for the most part, the basement is still being, right now as we speak, the basement is somewhere between 78 and 80 degrees. So that's what we're experiencing right here. And primarily that's happening in the summer, because our air conditioning is set right around 76, 77, usually about 76. But we've got 2 dehumidifiers running. I've got the one off right now because it gets too noisy with the live stream, but 2 dehumidifiers produce enough heat down here to keep this stable right around 78 to 80. And in the wintertime, we open up the vents here. We still have the dehumidifiers running, and it stays a pretty constant temperature. Ellsbury family, thank you so much for becoming a prime timer. Really appreciate that. That's awesome. Glad you're here hanging out with us. Okay. Can you please, Finsanity has a question. Thank you very much for the super chat. We're going to answer your question as soon as we get through these other considerations. So can you kind of make a mental note so I don't forget to do that?
Sure.
That would be so
Oh, yeah.
awesome of you. Okay, so filtration, temps. Here's a big one. What are you going to do about water changes? This is the bulk of what is going to cost you
yeah.
time. All right, it's waiting. So we, in our fish room, what we decided to do, I didn't want to drill all the tanks. I didn't want to put in an auto water change system. Do I wish I would have done that now looking back 10 years, almost 10 years? Yeah, I really wish I would have done that from the start, because it would have saved us an unbelievable amount. That wastewater system would have probably paid for itself within the first couple of years, right? I mean, again, our boys are employees of Primetime Aquatics. They don't do this stuff for free, and so that costs money. It costs tons and tons and tons of time. So if you're going to put a bunch of tanks in the same place, i.e. a fish room, really think about your water change system. And what we have to do is we have gravel vacs, and these gravel vacs have hoses that go to a perimeter wastewater PVC system that's got holes drilled in it, and so, or it's got uplift tubes, and we can just put the hose in there, and then it eventually drains into a floor drain. So we can drain. That's not the issue. Draining tanks, not a big deal. We could, if we wanted to, we could drain half our fish room at the same time, but typically we drain about 3 to 4 aquariums at the same time, and then we do the refill. It's the refill that takes a while, because we only have a sink with one hose that can kind of just hang on the side, and we start filling the aquariums. But it causes 2 issues. Issue number 1 is we're only filling 1 tank at a time, and that's where we really get bogged down. And 2, especially in the wintertime, we run out of hot water. So we got to be super careful about that, because and Eli's really good about it. When we have tanks, because of we import, and we've got 200 fish in a 20 gallon, he's got to make really sure that he doesn't drain that tank down, run out of hot water, fill other tanks, and we have to wait an hour to fill that tank, because at that point there's half the volume, there's decreased oxygen, because the sponge filters are probably sticking out the top of the tank itself, or the water level. It's a big problem.
Speaking of Eli, Vito says that he deserves a raise.
You're probably right about that. So really think about it. That is, if I could go back and make a change, that would be the change I would make. Is 10 years ago, I would have put an auto water change system in here. I would have drilled the tanks, and because I've done a bunch of fish room tours of people from the GCCA, and they've got these things. As flip a button, they all drain. They drain to whatever they want them to.
Yeah.
Flip another button, they refill, and they're just kind of chilling while it's happening. They're not really doing. Now, you still, if you've got to do gravel vacuuming, algae scraping, that kind of thing, you still have to do it, but that doesn't take very long. Lighting, I would say, is another one. There's really cheap ways to go with the lighting. You can do LED strips. You could do shop lights. When we originally set that up, I think we went almost all Phoenix, the original Phoenix Stingray.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
My thought was it was a decent light spectrum. It was a nice balance at the time between not going super, super, super inexpensive and having quality issues, and then not being super expensive where I was going to bankrupt, because lights is another area where you could spend a ton of money. Looking back on it, I'm looking at the fish room right now, and out of it's about 30 tanks in there. Of the original, let's see, there was 4, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. There was about 20 original aquariums from the fish room. Out of those 20, maybe 3 or 4 have the original stingrays. They eventually all just kind of burned out, and they burned out some of them kind of early. So we've since replaced a lot of those with other brands, but lighting is definitely something to consider, because it does add up. Last thing I have, and I don't know if you've got other things. This is a big one. Nobody ever wants to think about it. You've now got a fish room, correct? Lots of aquariums. Some of you have experienced ick outbreaks, bacterial outbreaks in a single tank. And you know how stressful that can be, right? In one tank. Imagine you've now got a fish room, and you're sharing equipment between these tanks, and you bring in some fish, and you throw them in one of the aquariums, and you use that same equipment for that tank as you do the other, let's say 19, and you wind up with an ick outbreak, not in one aquarium, but all of them. Could you even imagine the level of stress that would create? We have been very fortunate, very, very fortunate. We have basically quadrants in our fish room. Eli is a master at this. He's got not only does he have certain hoses that go into certain tanks, but he has an order in which he will, I don't even have to tell him this. He knows, okay, in quadrant 1, let's say there was 8 aquariums. And of those 8 aquariums, 3 of them have fish that are newer. What does he do? He goes in, because we're at this point, that entire fish room is basically a quarantine room. So what does he do? He'll do those first 5 tanks that have been established for a while, that have been disease-free, and then he'll deal with the other 3, just in the off chance that something happens that we can't quite see yet. So my point is, you really should have a couple of tanks set aside that are just for quarantine. And those tanks have all their own equipment. If we ever went back to just a fish room, I would still have tanks that are nothing but quarantine, and there would be very specific nets, hoses, all that stuff would be specific to that quarantine area. So please, I'm begging you, consider that. It's a real, it could be a real issue if you get an outbreak in a fish room as opposed to a fish tank.
There's something you forgot.
Okay.
For a fish room. For those of you that want many tanks, all that you want to really maximize that space. Just totally consider the lowest and the highest height that you want to place those tanks. The lower they go towards the bottom of the floor, you can't see them because your chair is too high. If you have old knees like I do, you can't get down there, and the siphon's just not going to function so well when it is that close to the floor. And then transversely, if it's too high, you really can't appreciate it or maintain it. You have to use a ladder. Do you like to use ladders? Do you have one around? That's just all I would throw that out. I really like it at eye height. Are you going to be standing looking at your tanks? Are you going to be sitting? If you are going to be sitting, find the chair that you want to sit on and then plan accordingly.
And when I originally set up the fish room, at least with the 20 longs, the 40 breeders, the 75s, and the 125s, I literally stood there and I measured my eye height. And for the tanks that were going to be in the top rows, at least for the 40 breeders and the 75 and 125, I wanted my eyes to be in the middle of that top aquarium. Then when I sat down, I wanted the bottom row to be roughly about close to my face. Now that, for the most part, worked, except for when we got to the center with the low boy and the 420s, because the 20s are a lot lower, just because the low boy, yeah, I didn't do that one the best. But you're 100% right. And to go along with that, if you've got aisles in your fish room, think about it. If you've got your fish tanks packed together and you're just squeezing between them, you're not enjoying those tanks. You're not going to be able to sit there or just stand there and really just relax and enjoy the aquariums. Now, if it's a breeding room, it's not the purpose anyway. But if you want to enjoy your fish room at all, that's the one thing we did do right. We've got plenty of space. Where the low boy is, we can walk all the way around, and we've got at least 3.5 feet or so in between the low boy and the tanks that are around the perimeter. And that's very relaxing because you can pull up a chair. You can sit there and watch the fish as opposed to just squeezing in there. Yeah, that was a really good one with the tanks being too high, too low. The ladder is huge, right? Because, again, the boys maintain these tanks. Like when this side, I don't know how many of you remember, when this side was a fish room, we actually had triple stack tanks. We had right over here in the center, we had the 255s over there, and that was tall. That second 55 was pretty tall. Then we had basically 229s and then 220 longs on top of that. So those were triple stacked. We had triple stacked 10 gallons, triple stacked 33 longs, and double stacked 40 breeders. And that was a lot. And that was when we shifted to the gallery. Yeah, part of it was that, okay, Luke's gone, we got to maintain this, and which would have been fine if that's what we wanted to do. But we started to really evaluate, what are we doing with these 40 tanks that are over here? Are they really something that we're enjoying? And the answer was, well, not really, because the way that they're positioned, I stacked too many of them, and it just wasn't as enjoyable on this side. So this is way better. This one, we can actually sit here, look at the tanks, enjoy them, plenty of space around here, and it's worked out much better. All right, Finsanity, thank you so much for the super chat. Had a power outage for 3 hours when the electric kicked back on. All 8 of my Oaza biocanister filters kicked back on. Jason's best advice ever. That is awesome to hear. So they maintain their suction, and that is very cool. Yeah, we've got the Oaza Biomaster 850s and the 125s, and I forget the size of the one that's in the 50-gallon lowboy, but I just, this last week, cleaned out all the pre-filters. The trick with those Oaza Biomasters is it's awesome because unlike a lot of canister filters, they have this long pre-filter, and you can shut the filter down, grab that. Actually, I don't even know if you have to shut it off to remove that pre-filter. I think you do. Remove the pre-filter, rinse all the pre-filter, put that back on, lock it back up, boom. You don't have to take the top off, which is really cool because that's sometimes where canister filters struggle. When the water's already in there, it gets suction back a lot faster, which is nice. Okay, anything else you want to say about fish room planning?
No, I would definitely consider the amount of side panel access that you'd like to get to, because they've, with when we had them all like, you know, bumper to bumper to bumper, you really can't get in between. So if you're spilling water, are they really like butted up against each other? Just totally keep that in mind because it becomes a bigger issue.
Yeah, that's huge. That's a good.
Yeah, immediately.
And the other thing too then is, and one of the things that I purposely did in the fish room is I made sure that the tanks were off the floor and that the stands had at least, I think the least amount of clearance I have is under the lowboy 20s, and there's still about 5 or 6 inches of clearance. Mm-hmm. So I can easily get a shop vac under there if I needed to, which we've had to do on multiple occasions. I can get a towel under there and wipe the stuff up.
Storage totes. I think that's a really good thing to work in if you are going to have any kind of racking system, shelving system. Where are you going to keep your stuff? You're going to have stuff. Do you want to have it put away, or are you the type of person that you just leave it out? You don't care. I don't like to see this stuff. I prefer to have them in totes. So you had it nicely done under some of the tanks, and they were labeled, you know, in the front, you know, sponge filters, and then others, you know, whatever, fertilizers or whatever. They all had their own space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tucked away.
Even, yeah, and you're right, because even once you get, you got to understand too, once you get stuff into place, once you've got all these stands and it's like this little puzzle, if you do have to get behind an aquarium, if you do have to get behind that stand, you may run into a situation where it's like, I can't pull this out of here without pulling this stand out, without pulling these tanks down, without getting, it can be really quite a mess. So you want to make sure that once you, pre-planning is everything. Once you've got the fish room kind of drawn out, you've taken really, really, really solid measurements. Once you've got that in there, just be aware it can be very difficult to get stuff out. I mean, there has been, did we pull anything out? I don't think any of the stands have ever moved on that side. Like we've never had to get, thankfully, no, that's not true. Example, our wastewater system runs the entire perimeter and it's on an angle, and I think it is it 1 inch for every 4 feet? I think that's what I did. So you have to slope it, right? Because you have to have the water run all the way around and then eventually in the drain. I think I did 1 inch for every 4 feet. That's the slope. So you work your way backwards from the drain and say, okay, well, how high does it have to be at the very end of the fish room? However, on the furthest side by the 125s and the 75s, at one point, the PVC, which I had all silicone together, it came undone. And so we were doing, luckily I was down there and we were draining on one of the 125s and there was water piling up on the floor. I'm like, what is going on?
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, that was not good because in order to fix that, I had to drain where it came apart. I had to drain a 75, the bottom 75, pull that tank out to fix the wastewater system and then put it all back. That was not fun. So things like that happen. Very good point, Slam Boy. Is there hot water in your fish room? Yeah, 100%. You need to have a sink. You need with hot water available so you can temperature control what's going back in. 100%. I saw Dennis said, hey, as an electrician, managing electricity is really important. That's so true.
Absolutely.
You have to think about water and electricity do not mix. I don't have to tell you guys that. You really need to think about how you are managing electricity. Where are your outlets going? How are they facing? Are they up off the floor? You cannot have electric on the floor. That would be a really not good thing to do. Okay.
Brett says I got a Python system recently, and it turns out that none of the faucets in my house are compatible. Any ideas?
So one of the things that you could do is what I did it wasn't the Python brand, it was the Aquion brand, but eventually the plastic thing that screws into the faucet, it broke. So I took that thing and I went to Lowe's, which is right by our house, and I figured out a way to basically reconstruct it using really, really, really solid, like that one we've had on there now coming out that sink has been there literally years and years, and it's not even close to breaking. So you could go to a Lowe's or Home Depot and see if there is a way to maybe change out the fixtures and basically make your own, because mine's got a lever on there and it can either water through the sink or water through the tube. The only thing that I don't think it would do as well as if I was actually using the water, the suction from the water running to drain a tank. I don't think it would do that very well, but I don't need it for that. But you could get the Venturi system so it would work. So that might be an option, short of having to change out the faucets, which could also be a thing.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah, but and like the guys, at least by me when I did this at Lowe's, I just brought the piece in. I'm like, I want to reconstruct this, and everything is like hardcore, like actual copper and stainless and really thick PVC. So it's definitely going to be okay.
Oh, we have to do a stocking question just because.
Sure.
Andrew says, my wife and I are wondering what your suggestions would be for stocking a 37-gallon column. I don't know how I would pick.
37-gallon column. So that's probably a very tall tank, right? Maybe not very tall, but it would be boxy, right? And it would be tall because it's a column. So I like active fish. So live bears like platies, guppies, mollies in a 37. If you want to go small, endlers. I also would think gouramis would work. Not the big bruisers like the blues, the opalines, the golds, but I would definitely like to see honey gouramis in a tank like that, because again they would certainly use vertical space. If you wanted to vertical it out and be more intentional about it, you could have dwarf cichlids on the bottom. You could have some schooling fish in the middle, and then you could have some top dwelling fish like what are the ones? The half beaks. Half beaks or hatchet fish would work really
That would
well
be
at
cool.
the top. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was thinking something I was thinking immediately the scape, if you had some sort of a center structure, like kind of a column structure going through the middle, and so the fish would be able to kind of school around it. You could have like a bunch of embers. Would that be cool?
Mm-hmm.
Would you do like neons? You could totally do neons. What about like silver tips?
Yeah.
There'd be enough.
I think so. 37-gallon. I would think there would be. I don't know the dimensions, length and width, relative to the height, but yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dennis says, I found that a lot of newer faucets don't have the traditional screen threaded portion on the spout. Yeah, if that's the case, then because I think our faucets in the bathroom, they don't have that, because there's a piece that like your faucet kind of sprays, and I went in there to try to turn it to see if I could at least remove that and then replace it, and it looks like it's just built in. Yeah, if that's the case, you'd have to go and replace the faucet if you want to use a Python system.
Let's not talk about flooding.
Can we tell the story? Because it's got to do with the fish room. All right, we're going to tell the story. You want to hear a nightmare? Okay. 2 days ago? Two days ago.
Yes.
Keep in mind, Joanna's really busy. She using her lunch break to
kick you off the computer so that I can use the computer.
Right, because to do some. So it would have been Tuesday. Yeah, it would have been 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm. Which
Cool.
actually turned out to be perfect timing.
So she was doing she's right here doing her video.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, the dishwasher wasn't draining properly. So I'm like, I need to deal with that. So I unscrew all the things. I start to pull the dishwasher out from underneath the counter.
Which side note, which was really funny, I was doing a voice. I was in the middle of a voiceover, and I hear this scream. So I'm like, "Do you have to do that now?" And I'm thinking, "Oh wait, he's trying to fix the dishwasher. I want the dishwasher fixed." So I just didn't say anything. I was just sitting here waiting, like carry
Now,
on.
in my mind, I'm thinking I'm going to just pull this out a little bit because I need to see what's under there to see what's connected so I don't mess anything up. So I'm pulling, and all of a sudden I hear snap and water running.
Funny, that's what I heard too down here.
I'm like, oh no. Now, this is the fun part. The dishwasher had this much water in it all along the bottom. We closed the dishwasher, and I think it was like 24 hours. That water basically smelled like raw sewage.
It was awful.
The bottom of the dishwasher it must have been some kind of a sensor, but it snapped. And water just started pouring out, the water that had collected in the dishwasher and was going all over the kitchen floor. And then, as you may or may not know, when you have a dishwasher under a countertop, there are usually places where water can sneak in because you got conduit and all kinds of stuff going in there and plumbing. Well, yeah, the water started running down into the basement, into the fish room. So now I've got water all over the kitchen floor. I'm yelling, "Eli, grab the towels from the fish room." She's yelling, "I need them," because the water's coming down here. I'm like, we got hardwood floors. I'm
Oh
like,
my gosh.
priority is the kitchen. We'll deal with the fish room. So he's bringing up all these towels. We have by the way, you ever have a fish room? You need 1,000,000 towels, like old bath
Yes.
towels. That saved us,
And
right?
like hangers. You need like a towel. What are they called? Like, old school like towel hangers where you can dry.
Yeah.
Like have those too, or a ladder.
Sure. So I'm using the towels. I'm wiping up. The water is now running. So I come down here after I finally clean up the water. The dishwasher is now drained. I got that accomplished all over the kitchen floor and then into the fish room here. So the water had basically drained onto the lowboy. Smart brains over here, like quick thinker. We've got buckets, and she had some
Yeah,
kind
we
of a
got
wooden
lots of
bin, and
buckets.
she's like got
Yeah.
everything situated. She's trying to, catch as
you
much
didn't-
water as she
But
can.
you didn't see what I was trying to do. It was like the Three Stooges, all right here, where I'm like, oh my gosh, there's water coming down on the low boy. So I grab this big wood like tray, right, that's got handles, but there's no lights on that side.
That's right at the
So
time.
I have my phone flashlight. I'm trying to hold it, and I'm also trying to balance this huge tray, so it balances on the low boy instead of like breaking the lid on.
Yeah.
And I was like doing the, like, oh, what do I do first? It was funny.
Yeah, so
Now
I come
it's
down
fine.
here after cleaning that mess up. Now, keep in mind, I'm cleaning up this horrid smelling water with these towels. In order to clean it, now I smell because I'm like down on my hands and knees trying to get under the dishwasher, dealing with all of that. I didn't want to pull out anymore because there's electric connected to this thing under there. And whoever did what they did, I need to speak with them
Yeah,
because
it's one of
it
those
was
things,
messed
huh?
up the way they
Yeah.
put it all in. So I'm like, oh no, I'm not pulling this out anymore. I got to stick the towels in there. And I come down here and there's buckets everywhere, but the water got onto the low boy, and all over the lid and then into one of the 20 gallons. And so we're trying to wipe that up with towels. And so now I'm calling Eli down. I'm like, dude, I don't know how much of this nasty, disgusting cesspool water got into these two tanks. Literally, I need you to water change these tanks until the fish are almost flopping around because there's not enough water for them to swim. It's like a 97% water change. And he's like, cool. So he did. He got it down to about that far from the substrate. The multis were all like,
Oh, excuse us.
what's going on? And those other fish were just like, we're just going to sit here and kind of lay on our side for a minute. I'm like, okay. And we filled it back up. And they're fine. They all look okay. But I don't remember where we were going with that. So, yeah, a lot of towels. And no, we didn't need the shop vac, which was good because we dealt with it with the towels. So that was...
Oh, there you go, Garage Gills. Item for fish room, retractable clothesline for drying towels.
Yeah.
I like it.
We set the smaller ones on top of our air system. Like there's a PVC running right next to the sink, so that becomes the hand towel one. And then the larger
It's for
ones,
hand towels.
we have a chrome shell. You guys have seen it, I'm sure, especially prime timers. It's right next to the 75s, and we just throw the towels up there if they need to dry. But oh my goodness, that was a whole lot of fun. So we have a new dishwasher on order that will be here hopefully pretty soon because
Yeah.
right now our current dishwasher is tired of doing that, and she came home. Here's another fun story. She gets home like 3 minutes before the live stream, and I hear dishes clinking up there. I'm like, I'm in trouble. I've literally been
Just
down
wanna
here. I
stack
went up,
'em.
I ate lunch, came back down, recorded, ate dinner, came back down. She comes down. She's
See-
like, nice job with the dishes. So if you want to know what we do 3 minutes before a live stream, it's get into a fight about the dishes.
It's a fist
I'm
fight.
like, we got to go live. She's like,
I
hi.
I left a note because
She did.
I was at work this afternoon, so I wrote out. I got my little pad of paper and I wrote out with my big fat Sharpie marker. The maid will not be here this afternoon. Please do your own dishes. Thank you. Sure enough, came home and there they were.
I had all the best intentions.
I'm sure you did.
I literally did. And it was like, but I also had a goal of so many videos I needed to get done today to stay on track.
You can do them after the stream. It's okay. It'll all be fine. See what I did there?
Let's not go crazy here. I mean, I still have an excuse. It was
Right.
valid.
I'm still busy.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So if you got questions, maybe we got answers. Maybe not. But yeah, it's been a very eventful week. Broken dishwasher, half flooded fish room with the
Good times.
rankest water I have smelled in a long time. Remember, it was funny because we were just talking about what makes fish tanks smell.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'll tell you right now,
Oh,
that dishwasher smell was kind of like dead snails. And I don't know why it even smell that bad. You would think, okay,
you would think.
dishwasher, soap, hot water, right? Should kill most everything.
Mm-hmm.
But then, and I don't understand it because most of it was drained. It wasn't like it flooded anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But then you leave that for a day, and holy cow!
But you know the ironic part is, I've always said I'd actually prefer not to have a dishwasher at all. I prefer to just wash the dishes.
Yeah,
I do. Actually it's like doing laundry. It's very rewarding. It's like my brain likes, you have a certain amount of things, and once they're done, they're done. You know, you wash them, you dry them, you put them away. It's kind of a nice little relaxing thing. So just so
I'm
you
glad
know.
you feel that way. You're going to be really relaxed in about 38 minutes.
I am. Yeah. You know, it's funny because each person, certain things bother them, you know, like in any kind of home.
Yeah.
Certain things bother you, certain things bother me. I don't like seeing dishes. So,
And I don't
do
like seeing
dishes.
dog hair. So
See?
it's a crazy thing.
I know.
And yet
dog
here we
hair.
have dishes and we have dogs. We should get rid of all of our dishes and dogs and we'd be okay. We wouldn't be bothered by a single thing. We would literally walk around all of life and be like, I have no bothersomes.
I'm surprised that people, you know, the crazy videos that people are doing these days, that somebody tackles, you know, if somebody wants this idea, knock yourself out. You'll have great views. I got rid of all my dishes. Like, how would you do it? How would you be able to eat with no dishes? I know minimal people, like minimalists, like the one that I used to watch. Each person had literally a knife, a spoon, a fork, and a small bowl and a plate and like a cup. That was theirs. They were like color coded. You need something, you wash it, you put it away. I mean, that's a little extreme. That's because, you know, that's just extreme, but it can be
You know
done
what else
very
is extreme?
minimal.
You know what else is extreme though?
What?
Having an entire bottom shelf filled with nothing but coffee cups.
That's me.
That is the opposite
Their
of
decor.
what you're talking about.
Am I right? Their decor, their mug of the day. Like, what are you feeling? All right, who's with me? Who's with me?
Who's with me?
Okay, Friday morning, you're really happy it's Friday, it's summer. Who's going to stand at that cabinet and be like, what am I
What
feeling?
coffee cup matches my season, Pedro?
What am I feeling? Am I the only one? Because I will take time.
Meanwhile, I just
I'm
grab
done.
the first thing and I'll be like,
Yeah, that's so wrong.
but I drink my orange juice out of a coffee cup, so there you go.
Gravedigger says, I love being a paper plate bachelor. That's
See?
the way to do
Yeah,
it.
but, all right, but you
Paper
couldn't do that.
plates.
You couldn't just default to consumables, right? You'd have to do it some other way.
You could. I mean, if you wanted to. It's totally a
I
way
mean, I
to-
guess if you ate out like every single time, you wouldn't need dishes for that.
True.
You wouldn't even need a kitchen. Man, you could go so minimalist. Like, I eliminated my dishes, all my pots and pans, my stove, my refrigerator. Just eat out every day.
You know that stuff, the wafer, you know, like the flowers that were made out of a wafer. Communion wafers used to be made out of it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it's made out of corn something or another. What if like all packaging
Was
was
edible?
made out of that? Yeah, you get done eating
It's
your
like the
burger,
corn tortilla, like
and then
like your taco salad.
yes,
You eat. I think there is a thing like that. Wouldn't there just be like a edible plate? But then you always have to eat your plate like every day.
you're
Like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just
I'm
eating my plate, and my fork. That would be unfortunate. Sylvie says, would a paradise fish be fine in an unheated 15-gallon cube and could have any tank mates? Yeah, probably. Tank mates for me would probably be white cloud mountain minnows. I would probably do that.
Oh. Paradise
6
fish.
to
I
8.
want paradise fish.
It's probably what I would do. Just an idea. All right. Noelle says, throws a whole new meaning to clean your plate. Then you get,
That's
instead
right.
of like not doing the
Eat your
dishes, you'd be
plate.
like, you didn't eat your plate. And get over here and finish this fork. Okay, Mom. Really tired of this. They all taste the same. But then you can get different flavors
man.
for your forks, your spoons, right? You like luck out and be like, oh my gosh, it would be made out of like Cookie Crisp or something. I got the Cookie Crisp spoon. You're like, how cool would that be? I got the Dorito fork today.
Well, it's kind of like the lick'em sticks, right?
Yeah, because those are basically, other than
Yeah.
the paper package. I mean, you're really not supposed to eat that, but like
No.
the stick itself, as long as it's surrounded by the dip sugar, it's perfectly fine.
No, I preferred it without it. It's just eat the stick by itself. That was
Yeah,
me.
you did used to do that.
Yep.
Yeah, that was interesting. To say the
That's
least.
interesting too, Greg.
Yeah. Mr. Skip says, in college, my roommate threw away all the dishes after he had gone to Goodwill and bought a box of new ones rather than doing the dishes. That's one way to do
That
it.
you know what?
But then that
Clean-
makes the
clean
garbage
slate.
really heavy and then unpredictable too, because if any of them break, then they break a hole in there. Oh man, Fun Dip. That's right, Noelle. That's what it's called. Yeah. So when it comes to candy, for me, I
Fun
don't
Dip.
crave chocolate or anything like that. Never really have. But you give me things like, and I really don't eat a lot of candy, but Spree, the Fun Dip, the Pixie Sticks. That was my jam back in the day.
There we go.
Boardman. Oh, no, the Zen. The spoonberry tastes like spoonberry. That's right. Boardman says, I have a new 180-gallon planted tank, having a problem choosing what lights to buy. I will share with you my absolute 100% favorite light of all time. And that is the lights right behind me here. It's these two guys. I did a video about them. They're called the AI Aqua Illumination Prime. They have the primes and they have the blades, and I think they've come out with another one recently. They're not cheap. I'm going to tell you that right now. But the AI primes right here on the low boy, those are, I think there are 7 color adjustments, fully programmable, timeable. Intensity is outstanding. You get the shimmer like with the Kessel lights, but they're not nearly as expensive as a Kessel light. So Kessel to me is like the top of the line light for aquariums. The Aqua Illumination, especially these primes, have pretty much been able to accomplish what the Kessel lights can, but not nearly as expensive. And so if I had a 180, I'd put 3 of these bad boys on that 180 and call it a day, and be very, very happy with that. I mean, if you ask me, money is no object, pick one type of light, it's the Aqua Illuminations all day, every day. And I've got the blades on all the other tanks around here. I have another one on the 125, and the other 125 is going to get a second 6-foot blade. Those are actually even more money. So I think the AI primes for what they are a better deal.
Lorraine's with me with the mugs. So are Don and Sharon.
Okay.
Just so you know.
you've got
You need a lot of mugs.
some
Thank you.
mug lovers out there.
Mug lovers.
That's cool.
Uh,
Hold on, lady. Thank you so much for the super chat. Glad you're hanging out with us tonight. Hope all is well. What are your feelings about black diamond blasting sand as a substrate? Do you still have a bag of that somewhere in the garage?
I don't have. Oh, that's right. We did get it. I don't know.
You got it. Yeah. You're like, I'm going to use it. And I don't know if we just.
Oh, I have a lot of stuff that I said that specific phrase.
Yeah. So what I can tell you is we haven't used it. However, lots and lots and lots of guys at the Greater Chicago Cichlid Association use it a lot, and they seem to really like it. So,
Now, is it too rough for like Corey's? Have we determined that? Is that
Well,
the
they're keeping-
issue?
I don't know, because they're keeping African cichlids that dig, and they haven't had any issues.
Yeah.
I don't know how it does with the cories, if it's a little bit sharp or like loaches and stuff. Would love for somebody to pop in here if you've used the black diamond blasting sand with cories, with loaches, any issues. But I know with the cichlids, it's been perfectly fine.
Weird Flex says, first time fish journey for my wife and I. Congrats. We went with a 55. And what would you recommend for a community of fish? Your channel has been very helpful.
Well, thanks for being here. Thank you.
Thanks.
So 55, do we know any information about just community, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I think it's
Okay.
just a generic.
Feel free to suggest away. I have an idea.
I'm gonna take a moment because I don't know what my
Okay,
jumping
so
off
you
point's gonna be
think-
here.
I'm feeling in a 55. You ready?
Mm.
I want as my showpiece, my centerpiece for that tank, to be a veil tail angel. I mean, just gorgeous. It's going to be a big, giant fish, but it's going to be a veil tail, so we got to be a little careful with the stocking. So if my veil tail is my centerpiece, that's going to be just magnificent. It'll be like a foot. You know, I'd give it 5 or 6, 8 years. So I got that. Then I need to choose some fish that are going to be large enough not to get eaten by a full-grown angelfish, but still small enough to be kind of schooling-like. So to do that, I'm going to get a big group of around 15 to 18 snakeskin barbs. Okay.
Okay.
They're going to be fine with the veil tail. They just basically ignore other fish. I also want at least a half a dozen. Let's go extra orange Venezuela cories. The extra orange variety. Those are really pretty.
Mm-hmm.
So now I've got a schooling fish. I've got my big centerpiece. I've got some cory cats. My cleanup crew is undoubtedly going to be blue-eye lemon drop longfin plecos. I'll probably do 2 or 3 of those.
You're a stinker.
Yeah. And you've got some room for other fish. Maybe what I'm doing is, I don't know, 3 or 4 Bolivian rams. 'Cause they should be fine with the angelfish and the snakeskins. And if I still wanted more schooling after the 15 or so snakeskin barbs, you could do, I'm trying to think of another mellow schooling, like just mellow schooling fish. It's not going to be too fin nippy or anything. Rummy nose rasbora. Do a dozen of those. Boom, done. That's my thing. Go. Beat that. Oh, I thought you were going to punch me.
Oh my.
I mean, after the conversation we had right before the live stream started, I'm like, all right, I just crossed the last line. Yes. Yes, you can do that. Do it.
That would.
I think that would be cool. Yeah.
Or would it be like kind of like meh?
I think they're very similar color.
They are, but that's not necessarily wrong. All right. My starting combo. First, I thought Congo Tetris. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then I said, what would go really well with Congos? Green neons.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure what else I would add.
Congos, green neons.
Like, would you do some red? Anyone?
Yeah.
Like, what would you put?
What about, if you're going to do that, what about like a Harlequin rasbora? Or a Serpe tetra? Those get really pretty. And they should work out okay with those two. And then
Maybe.
if you did that, then you could have like some smallish cichlids, like maybe some checkerboards.
Yes.
Or
I would totally
the
do that.
nanochromis.
I totally do that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that would be pretty as
Yeah.
well.
Both
Yeah.
of them would work.
There you go.
Hold on, I saw something I wanted to see. Oh, Andrew says, how many AI primes would you recommend for a 75-gallon living room? I do 2, just because it's a 4-foot tank, and so you can adjust. Again, you can adjust the intensity on those things too. And the thing is, those lights. There is no such thing as a tank that you couldn't plant with these AI lights. These AI blades that you see behind me here, they are I think the max percentage that I have, like the highest percentage on any one color, is about 30%. These guys, the AI, the prime, I'm sorry, on the blades. On the primes, I think I have 2 colors set at around 40, and most of the colors are at like 15 to 25%. So you blast those things at 100, man, you might just blind everybody in your neighborhood. So I like the fact that you can adjust the intensity, and you can adjust the intensity of each color. The blades, which are the strip lights that are in the 125s and the 75s, I think there's 3 color adjustments, but like I said, the primes have 6 or 7, which is cool.
I don't know if I'm saying this right. Pine Sol. Do you think a pea puffer can live peacefully with 3 to 4 tetras? It depends on the tetra. And also, tetras are usually pretty high activity, and yet the number one concern with pea puffers is that they're slow eaters, for me.
But they're not eating the same things. Most pea puffers will just eat snails, and the tetras would never bother.
That's true, except I have chili rasboras that will steal like snails from my pea puffers. Figure that one out.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's very weird. The first time that happened, I'm like, seriously, are you kidding me?
Huh,
Yeah, I know.
That's weird.
It's very weird. It's like I have like animal chilies.
My chilies are
They're like
granimals.
like animal, the Muppets. Like they're all animals. Because they're red, get it?
I would say normally it's fine. Smaller tetras, not like the nippy ones, not the red eyes or the Buenos Aires or anything like that. But if you had smaller ember type tetras, any of the neon types should be okay. Usually they are.
Yeah, just keep in mind how many tetras like to be in a group. Usually they don't, have a small little group.
Wait, what? Hold on. Hi, Lynn. Hi, guys.
Hi, Lynn.
Lurking out here. Heart is better. Damage is not too bad. Considered a silent heart attack and ventricular heart failure, thanks to genetic whammies.
What? Lynn?
Well, I hope you're doing okay.
Oh, good grief. Were you in the hospital? Are you out of the hospital? Like, let us know.
Yeah. I hope you're doing all
Oh
right.
my goodness. Jeez.
Gosh.
MNC says, I need a group of Vulcan Corys.
Look them up. Let's see what they are.
Yeah.
They're probably like this. I've never even heard of Vulcan cores before. I've heard a lot of cores, but Vulcan cores?
Is that like, oh my gosh, like the fireballs? I have to have fireballs. Emma, do you have fireballs yet?
Every
Come
time
on
you
now.
say that, I think of is that
Bum,
Pitbull?
bum, bum, bum,
Yeah.
bum. Yep.
'Cause
Just like
you
my
know,
shrimp. I have a shrimp named Fireball, and every time I say his name, I think of
If
it.
you got those, you'd have to do a short, and that would have to be the song, right?
I know, except the lyrics aren't. I've debated, but I don't know if
I don't remember the lyrics.
I'm a fan of. Well, it's Pitbull, so it's
They're not very good. They're not very wholesome. Is that what you're saying?
probably not.
Yeah.
Vulcan.
She's looking them up right now. Because why not? Oh, Priscilla Tetra. Yeah, that would be ready now. That's a good one.
Oh
Priscilla
yeah.
Tetras are cool.
Yeah.
For sure. The one that I really like is, I've got only 2 of them left in here. I've got Lapis Tetras. There's 2 of them. I got a whole group of them. They
I
didn't
love
make it.
them.
But I got 2, and it's really
Ooh.
making me mad because the 2
Hello.
that I have in here are beautiful, but I need a big group. That's pretty cool. I like those. I haven't seen them on any lists. And I wonder, those would probably be pretty insane.
Can y'all see?
I
Probably.
could see us seeing them.
Yeah, you can't really.
No, it's
that's
not
all
gonna
washed
focus.
out. They look like little like stripy plecos. Zebra
They look like
plecos.
the Cory cat, the zebra pleco.
Oh my
Cory cat.
gosh, Emma, do you have
Wait,
these?
do
You probably want
Are,
these.
are there any for sale? I'm curious what the retail on it. It's got to be pretty stinking high. they're,
Let's
like,
see. The
any
first
for
one that
sale.
came up is Wet Spot.
How much?
It's
Or is it just a
loading.
picture?
My phone is just like
Oh,
napping today. Hold on. It's gonna.
oh my gosh.
Hold on a second here.
180 each. MNC says. What? No, I'm not paying 180.
Give me like
bucks
10.
Yeah, that's just not happening. I would love to see them on an import list though, because usually when people are retailing those things for
Yeah.
180 bucks,
200, 199.99.
they're
Oh
making
my
it-
goodness.
Trust me when I tell you, they're making an absolute killing on those fish.
That
People
is
are buying them for 200 bucks a piece.
Awful.
I mean, because there's
No Vulcan
when
quarries for me.
we don't. My goal is not to get rich off of bringing fish to swaps, and so when we would bring in some of the rare tetras, especially when the red cherry tetras were first a thing, the volcano bitterlings, retail those things were going like for like 40 or 50 bucks a piece. I'm like, why? I mean, when we were selling them for, I don't know, between $12 and $20 each, and they were easily double that retail. I'm like, that's crazy, because, yeah, and it wasn't like they were coming in and they were like dying. I can see it when it's like, okay, I'm bringing in a fish, and I've got to spend a lot of money, and I'm going to bring in 200 or 300, and then I just know I'm going to lose half because they're going to have problems shipping, they're going to have problems acclimating. I get that, but I don't get when fish are just, they're a little unusual and people are just absolutely sticking it to everybody, because that's what that appears to be.
Chris is here from Scallywags. Love that
What's
name
up?
and love the logo. Just cracks me up every time. I love the interview with Josh and Mike. Made my head spin a lot.
The Fritz. Yeah, if you haven't seen that, I highly recommend. Check that out. And I'm sure probably a lot of you have. But we start to do a little bit of a deeper dive. And a lot of people ask for that on this channel. It was nice being able to sit down with a microbiologist who's in the field doing the work for industry and be able to get into the weeds a little bit about the microbes in our aquariums. That was the video I just did this past Sunday. And then, like I said, there's a part 2 coming out this Sunday where, again, it's just a deep dive how the microbes fit into our ecosystems. So it was a lot of fun making those videos. A lot of fun. Just sit back, chill out. It's more of almost like it's an interview, so it's kind of a podcast feeling. It's something you have to watch. You can literally just listen to it. And I thought it was
It's not
pretty
something
cool.
you have to watch.
It's not something you have to watch. It's not visual, man.
Lynn says, I ain't dead yet. In hospital a week, back at work and tending all my critters. Like all your chickens.
Okay.
All right,
well,
we'll take
good.
it easy,
That's
okay?
Good. Yep.
Oh, Lynn.
Michelle says Aquatics has L236 super white plecos right now.
Really?
That sounds fun.
That sounds beautiful.
We are going to be in that area this weekend. I wonder if it's worth stopping by there. We haven't been there in a while.
Choppy?
Yeah.
We are?
Yeah. We're going to be there. So we could just leave a little early and go over there and see what's going on.
Bring your wallet. You says pea puffers and tetras will eat bloodworms at different rates. That's good to know. Really?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, I've been tempted. That's what I heard was a really good food source for them. Would be like bloodworms or blackworms, because they'll bury themselves kind of in the substrate a little bit, and then the little puffies can just go and hunt.
Yeah, the blackworms, the issue is just finding a source that you trust.
Mm-hmm.
And then frozen bloodworms, there's always that risk that you introduce something into the tank.
Yeah. Yeah, it stinks.
That's the only problem. Brett says, is Fix Ick any good compared to Ick X?
Say that 5 times fast.
Is Fix Ick any good? I have used Fix Ick. It worked. But I've got a gallon of Ick X sitting over there in case anything should ever happen, and that has worked for me so many times. It's one of those things where it's not that Fix Ick doesn't work. It does. When you've got it and you know exactly the protocol, I can't. The problem is when I'm doing this and I'm importing this fish, if I get an ick outbreak and there's 200 fish in an aquarium, I have to know exactly what I'm doing in terms of dosage, temperatures. I've got that so dialed in that I don't experiment when it comes to ick with a whole lot else. What I do is I've got the Ick X, but I've also got the Copper Safe. So the Fritz Copper Safe, because that's the other one. I've got that really dialed in. And so if I think, oh my gosh, this is a really severe case of ick, I skip the Ick X, provided that I don't have, cory cats don't do well with that, loaches don't do well with it, but the scaleless fish do horrible with it. But anything else, if it's a really bad case, it's like straight to the Copper Safe.
All right, we have a question from a longtime listener, a first-time commenter.
Wow, good.
You're a friend of mine, Whip. If I add fluval stratum into a tank capped with sand and gravel, will that raise the ammonia?
Maybe, potentially, at least initially. So people have had it. I'm sure some of you guys, if you've had that happen to you before, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. But I have heard that more than once, where either a dirted tank or some type of active substrate has temporarily caused an ammonia spike, but usually it all balances out. Now, would I do that and throw fish in right away? Probably no. What I would do is I would get the substrate. The only reason why you're doing this, I'm assuming, is because it's a planted tank. So I would do this thing with the way you're suggesting, plant it out.
Wait, Whip, are you doing this so that your plants stay alive? Are you
Good
trying
idea.
this next?
Have the Fritzheim 7 on hand, right? So that you got your beneficial bacteria there. Let's make sure it's stable after a week or so, a week or two. And that's the one. And add the Fritzheim 7. And then you can start adding fish once you know that everything is stable. But I've heard from quite a few people when they do some of the planted substrates or dirt, like, oh man, I got an ammonia spike. And then it does reach equilibrium. It goes away, but it's never a fun thing when that happens. Does anyone want what plants that feed off of water column other than stem plants? Well, all right, so your stem plants, yeah. You've got your water sprite, water wisteria, but then you've also got hornwort, guppy grass, all your floating plants, duckweed,
Your
redwood floaters.
Epiphytes. So your Anubias, your
Yes.
Bucephalandra, Bulbitis.
Good, yeah.
Even like some of the stem plants, like Bacopa. Bacopa does just fine. You float it and it grows some. You can leave it floating. I've done that before. What's the other one? Ludwigia. I think it actually looks really cool floating. And then what's? Trying to blank.
I don't know.
Oh, I'm trying
This
to
says we have mystery rainbow fish that hatched from eggs in Java moss from Greg
How
Sage,
exciting.
waiting until they're bigger to identify them. That's pretty cool. But yeah, when we haven't done it in a long time, but we were importing a lot of rainbow fish, the red rainbows, the turquoise, all kinds of them. And it was crazy how many fry we got just because there was a massive group that were nearly full grown. Usually rainbow fish, when they come in, they're pretty large. They're certainly a breeding size. And I wasn't trying to breed them, but you would bring them in. They would do their egg scattering thing, especially in some of the tanks that had a little bit of moss and stuff or guppy grass. And then we'd sell them all off the swaths. And a few days later, I'm like, what the heck are all those slivers in there? That same thing just happened to us with the Hillstream loaches. We've got a 37 gallon right now we had a massive number of Hillstream loaches in that tank, probably 30 or 40 at least, full size. And I looked in there last week or the week before. I'm like, what in the heck? There's dozens and dozens of baby Hillstream loaches in there now. So, yeah. Now we've got all those babies. Oh, pothos, yeah. That would certainly be one that would take out a lot of nitrate from a water column. That just the roots. You don't put the whole plant in there.
Yep. Oh, Oink says, good evening, Oink. Yep, I've had one dirted tank and I hate it. The ammonia went boom immediately.
Yeah, people ask all the time why we
Yeah.
don't have any dirted tanks. Well, I can tell you why I don't have any dirted tanks, and I know it's all the rage right now. And if you're doing it and you like it, cool, man, just keep with it. Why I don't do it is reason number one, it can make a heck of a mess. And so anytime you want to pull plants out, especially if they're like, the only reason you're doing dirted tanks is because of you have rooted plants. So if you need to remove any, you want to rescape something, that's going to be a huge mess. I love having the flexibility of being able to put fish in a tank and not have to worry about, are they going to dig, expose all the dirt, and have a big problem. So that's the reasons why I don't do it. But if you don't have those concerns, it can be a very wonderful thing.
You can try it
Yeah.
if you want. I do have a hack. It's super fun. You try it with like a little terracotta pot or a bigger terracotta pot. Get yourself some, I like the organic potting soil. You could even use an aqua soil, whatever, and cap it with sand. Put your plant in there and then partially bury the pot in your tank. Although keep in mind what fish you have in there, they will mess with them too and quite possibly knock it over and you'll have the same problem, because that's when I did my little experiment that just never worked, because I had fish that were constantly messing up my little tiny pot
Yeah.
and dumping it over and the plant would come out. So yeah.
Yeah.
But you will get crazy growth. I'm going to tell you that right now. You'll get crazy growth.
Lush says, hey, does anyone know where they can find longfin albino Aeneas cories? I have no idea.
Yeah, I've been looking for that.
The albino is the thing. I mean, again, I'm thinking about like the lists I have. The longfin pandas all day long, but other than that, longfin albinos, I don't think I've even seen them. If anybody else knows, I let them know. But
I don't even know what.
yeah.
Remember that one guy that we were talking to? Was that Florida? Was that Florida last year?
Yeah.
He was like crazy into cories. Yeah. He was the one who told us about the fireballs. You know what, Mr. Lush? You will not want those when you see the fireball cories. You're going to be like...
Maybe he's already got them. That's awfully presumptuous.
No, I don't think so. I don't think you have them. Do you? I don't think he does.
Robert says, what type are you breeding the hill streams? They're just reticulated. There's a mess load of them in there. A whole mess load. Roland says, I just got here. I can't believe I missed most of the stream. I was so busy I didn't remember. Today was the stream day. Y'all just need to put a reoccurring reminder in your phone and it'll just pop up. And then you can put 2 notices, like one reminder 10 minutes before the stream, one 5 minutes before. It's like keep like bah, 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 bah. It'll be annoying to you. And you can just leave it on. Remind me every single Thursday from now until the end of time. Yes, that's the way to go.
So Noelle has stems in a terracotta pot from my crazy suggestion. I love that they not only grew crazy fast, but also the pot added some well-needed height to the back of her tank. Yes.
Very cool.
Added bonus.
Nice.
That's so cool.
Michelle says, we just set up a 2-gallon tank for pest snail breeding with a betta. Should we put a heater on it? There's a sponge filter on it too. Yeah, I'd put it for the betta for sure because that betta is going to want to be upper 70s. I saw some studies a number of years ago. Somebody else posted them. I don't remember what social media it was, but they posted some studies that showed actually, what the heck was I just reading about bettas? There was another study and it was pretty consistent. 78 to 80 for them is optimal. And I've seen that in multiple different scientific studies lately, or at least in the last 5 or 6 years. I am reading through the things. Weird says, for that community of fish, is a Tidal 75 and oxygen pump a good combination or a Tidal and a wave maker? I don't remember what community of fish we were talking about. I'm not a huge fan of wave makers unless the fish really, really, really need them. It's a lot. It's usually a lot of flow. So the Tidal 75, so for a 75 gallon, usually what I like is to have 2 filters on a 4-foot tank or 1 canister. So if you did, like on our tanks here, I've got the Fluval 407s and I've absolutely loved those filters for a 75. But if I was going hang on backs, I'd want 2, 1 on each side just to keep the circulation going. Then you really don't need the pump if you've got either the canister filter running like a Fluval 407 or a couple hang on backs, 1 on each side. What say you?
I was zoning out.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I was thinking of one thing and then starting to think of a different thing and then, yeah.
Okay. You says, my wife reminds me of your stream so I can leave her alone. That's too funny. Don't you have a stream to watch?
You're welcome.
No, that is our gift to the
Spouse.
non-fish keeping
That's right.
significant others. We give
like
them 90 minutes of reprieve. You should tell them, hey, put this reminder in your phone and you're going to get 90 minutes of peace where I will be just sitting there listening, staring off into space, whatever it is you need to do, and they get peace.
We're like the fish keeping, like instead of child care, like spouse care. Come on, sign your spouse in.
That could be our new tagline.
Right?
Primetime Aquatics. The savers of marriages all around the world. We'll
watch your spouse for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
We'll watch your fish keeper.
That could be a whole advertising campaign. Do you need 90 minutes of peace? Do you want to just be left alone for a minute? Do you want to stop talking? Do you want to stop listening to somebody?
Do you just want to watch your
Have
show?
your significant other, yeah. Do you want to just have time to veg out on YouTube? hand your significant fish keeper the
Oh
phone
my
and tell them to go
God.
watch the Primetime Aquatics live stream every Thursday evening at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Your piece starts here.
Oh no, no, not one of those. Oh my
That's a
gosh.
great question, but can you reuse breather bags? I wouldn't think so, only because don't you usually have to, I mean, unless you
to
untie them, but usually they're so
break 'em, right?
tied. Yeah, I usually have to just cut them. So I don't know. I've never tried to reuse any bag, I don't think. I mean, a regular bag, I suppose you could if you could still have the ability to tie it, but the breather bags, I don't know.
I was just thinking because Chris is saying you should charge babysitting fees, maybe get an app that notifies people to drop off their spouse.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be funny? Like the little, all right, remember to send your fish keeper in. They were serving this, and we're
Yeah.
going to have really fun show.
Little brown
They're
bag
gonna
with a
love
peanut butter
it.
and jelly sandwich and a juice box. Yeah.
Really colorful.
What was the name of the juice box? What is the name of it? Oh my gosh. Why am I blanking out?
Juicy Juice.
No, there's another one.
Capri Sun? That's not a juice box.
Oh my gosh.
Juicy
Come on, help me
Juice,
out.
right?
Is it
Come
Juicy
on now.
Juice? Like the
Yes.
original, the juice box with the little straw. You poke in there and half the time the straw would crack before you could get through the little tinfoil thing. I don't know. Yes, of course, Dennis. We all get name tags. Name tags and a Star Wars lunchbox.
That's right.
Yeah.
Assigned seating.
And you're going to have to eat the bag because no dishes.
Absolutely.
So make sure it's edible. Make sure your lunchbox is edible. I see. Was that the one? Was that the actual name of
Yoo-hoo. I don't even know if I've had Yoo-hoo.
Yoo-hoo is a can, like a
I know it's chocolate
snack.
milk.
Oh,
No,
it's
Yoo-hoo
a
is
milk.
chocolate
That's right.
milk, but I don't think I've actually had that.
I don't know either.
The primetime juice. We could have our own primetime. Would be funny.
Juice box?
Juice box.
Yeah. Capri Sun, yeah, that was one with the squeezable thing. I didn't like those because
Oh,
you'd squeeze and squeeze and squeeze that stupid thing, but you never get all the juice out. You know what I mean? Like you really had to work at it, and then you'd like the whole thing would be sucking around the straw.
Growing up,
stars.
growing up, I don't think we had Capri Sun. We were
Those were
they
more.
were-
I
they
think
were
those might have
pricey.
been more annoying than the juice boxes.
They were
'cause those
pricey.
you had
We
to
didn't-
stab in
we
at
didn't
an
have those.
angle.
Fancy
Oh,
kids had Capri Sun.
yeah, we didn't have that. We just had the regular juice boxes. All right, everybody. On that fine note, what do you think? I think it is time.
Oh wait, Oink
For-
has a really great plant question first. I
Okay.
cannot leave a plant question hanging out there, especially from our beloved Oink. What plant do you? Oh geez, it just went. Do you own that has required the least amount of work that you are the most impressed with its growth?
Move your head. Move. That gigantic. Look, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Sword plants. I don't know what it is with them, but they go in. Look at the size
If
of
you
that
have
thing.
a
That's
tank
a
big enough,
125, man. I mean, that thing is getting to a point where it's going to take up half of 125 pretty soon. That's mine. That's my vote. You got one?
well, if you liked hornwort, I mean, hornwort would be an absolute no-brainer because you do nothing with it,
Yeah.
and you'll have lots.
Yeah.
For growth,
I still think crypts because you just plant them and they just go everywhere like all these guys are doing on here.
yeah, I mean, most of my plants, they don't have crazy growth, so it would probably have to be, yeah, that bad boy back there.
Yeah.
You really can't go wrong. If you have a tank big enough, do it.
Yep.
It's one plant, blammo.
All right, everybody. Now we're gonna hit it for the evening. Remember, we're not gonna be here next week, so we're gonna be
Boo.
gone next week, but we'll be back in 2 weeks, and we'll have a giveaway when we get back, and it will be fun, and we'll all have a juice box. That's the new thing. We'll have
Hashtag juice box.
that's right. Y'all have a great week, everybody, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Take care.
Bye bye.